Welcome back to the Simply Fitness Podcast. I'm John Stein. On this episode of the podcast, I got a chance to interview Juhee Shah about the power of strength training, why it is important, and how can you get started with strength training. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode.
What did I do? There we go.
Perfect. How's it going today?
Pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing great. Got my workout in, so we're here, showered, ready to go.
There you go. What did you work out today?
I took a Orange Theory Fitness class today, so got a little running in, got a little rowing in, got a little strength in, so got a little bit of everything today. So feeling good. Cool. Got my tea and
yes, I'm prepared with coffee.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I know you're a big coffee drinker. I see your stories every day. I appreciate it.
Man, life without coffee. Oof.
I feel like 90% of fitness professionals like drink coffee every single day. I feel like that's the only. I made a post like years ago. I was like, the only thing people in the fitness world can agree on is that coffee is good for you.
Yes.
Or that like life wouldn't be the same without coffee.
It's the only thing that gets me out of bed. I'm like, yes, I get to go brew coffee.
So how's your day going?
Pretty good so far. Yeah, just trained a client over Zoom earlier this morning, and just been doing a little Instagram Q&A, working on a few things here and there, some programming, and I was really excited about this, though. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, no problem. I'm excited to have you on. So let's start with, who are you? Like, just give like a brief explanation of like your fitness story, and like what do you do and everything. Like, just give it the whole little rundown.
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Juhee Shah. I'm located in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Nice.
I've been here my entire life, never left. I went to UT for undergrad, did my master's in exercise physiology over there as well.
Nice.
And I started training, I think in 2013, when I was in like the end of my first year of my master's program, is when I started training at a gym. Started teaching like group fitness classes, doing personal training, things like that. So that was kind of my start into it. But I've always been like super active kid. I played tennis for a long time, gravitated more towards martial arts. I did martial arts up until recently. A few years ago, I had a really bad knee injury and just haven't had the confidence to go back. But yeah, I started strength training when I was 15, I think, and have been pretty much obsessed with it ever since. But yeah, so I worked at that gym for like 2-3 years, and then worked at a couple more gyms kind of before I decided to go off on my own. And when I went off on my own, I started doing like in-home training. So I would travel to my clients' homes and train them there, which was great because a lot of them are, professionals and business owners themselves. Yeah. So did that, and then got started in the mentorship program after I heard about it, and started my online coaching business. And yeah, here we are. Got to meet some really awesome people.
Awesome. Yeah. Oh, of course. I've interviewed so many of them and so many great people. So what kind of like martial arts were you into?
I did Taekwondo. So I started when I was 7. And then, So I love it. I have a little Taekwondo sweatshirt.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
All my clothes are Taekwondo stuff. I miss it, but we'll see. Maybe one day we'll go back.
Yeah. Got to build up that confidence. I know injuries can be devastating to the mental psyche there. It's tough to get back in. Yeah. So awesome. Like that was a great introduction. And let's just like dive right into it. So you were talking about like strength training as like, that's, you've been doing it for years and years now at this point, and it's definitely a passion of yours. So what would you say to someone who maybe isn't into strength training? Like, so someone who, is considering it, we both worked at gyms. There are tons of people that go to gyms and they never touch a single weight, which is, crazy to think about that's most of what goes on in a gym. Why strength training? Why strength training above maybe some of the other options of that are in a gym? Because there's tons of different ways to exercise and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And first and foremost, I have to say, like, I am partial to strength training, but exercise in all forms is so beneficial,
Oh,
So
100%.
props to everybody out there that's doing some sort of physical activity. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Strength training for me, I was thinking about this question earlier because you had sent them to me before, but and I was listing off, the different benefits of strength training and blah, blah, blah. So I was like, this sounds boring because we all know, you increase strength, you increase
Yeah.
muscle mass, and
Yeah, exactly.
it's good for a lot of things. But I think one of the most important things is that it has a direct impact on your quality of life. So it's going to help you be able to do the things that you love to do more effectively, more efficiently, and for longer.
Yeah.
You hear a lot of people as they age, they're like, "Oh man, I can't do that anymore. I used to love doing it, but I can't do it anymore just because my body won't let me." Well, you can prevent that.
Yeah.
Just and being strong is like you're preventing injury. You think about, you hear people are like, "Oh man, I hurt my back picking something up off the ground," or reaching up overhead is like impossible for me now.
Yeah.
And these are all things that strength training can really help you avoid.
Yeah.
And even apart from that too, just the increased confidence and how much it's like empowering to feel strong.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think those are really the ones that I wanted to talk most about, is just the improved quality of life. It's so important.
Yeah, that's really where at like this point, like that, I think where people first go, they think about building muscle, aesthetics, things like that. But like my biggest selling point and like the reason like I even exercise is thinking about that 20, 30, 40 years from now, where you want your body to be. And that's what you're building right now. Obviously like looking good and feeling great is a benefit, but like, don't you want to feel great 20, 30, 40 years now, being able to, if you want to have kids, run around with your kids or your grandkids, or just, be alive for the people that, you're around. Because if you're just dragging around and you're half the person you used to be, why can't you have that same quality of life, 30, 40 years from now? And that's really where I agree with you on. And that point, like the strength training, like that's huge. Like if you don't have strength and you lose that muscle, which we've, studies have already shown that's what happens over time. So like you want to maintain it now and build it up now, because then that's what's going to happen over time. It's just an aging process. There's nothing, we haven't figured out a way to reverse it, and I don't think we ever will. So we got to exercise as close as possible that you can get to,
Yes.
As that magic pill, that anti-aging
Fountain of youth.
Yeah, exactly. Look at Arnold Schwarzenegger. The guy's like 70 years old. He if no one knew who he was, you'd probably say, oh, maybe he's 50, maybe, something like that. Maybe it looks a little older, but the guy's moving around doing everything he can still.
Absolutely. And too, like you think about so many older people that are dependent on others just because they can't do a lot of things by themselves. I mean, going up and down the stairs, carrying groceries, these are all the things. And strength training is cool because like you're training every movement that you're going to do in daily life. So it's very applicable. And I think it's really easy to think about exercise in terms of, like you said, just as it relates to weight loss, or as it results to getting ripped or whatever, getting the body you want, which is fine. But if you take a look at it from a bigger perspective, it's so much more than that.
Yeah, exactly. When you zoom out, like everyone gets very, I think we're all guilty of it sometimes. Just, we put the blinders on, we think about the short term, but because that's what's going to come first. But how does that look, 1 year, 2 years, 10 years down the line? How does that affect, you're not going to care about that six pack, 30 years from now. You're going to care about exactly what you said, being able to go up, down the stairs, being able to do things on your own without having to depend on other people. And, just your overall health, maintain that.
Absolutely. And I think it's a great way too, to just be able to connect to your body and have more body awareness and be more mindful and intentional of your movements. And I know it can be easy to kind of, the mind is disconnected from the body a little bit, but creating that mind body connection and just being more aware is really beneficial as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like I see people that, first come into doing strength training or doing things and they just don't know how to move their body in any like certain way, even just, like a simple squat, something, that should be really simple to get, you get up and down from seats. We all sit all the time. How do we not know how to get up and down from a seat,
That's right.
and you just see people and it's like, oh man, like that explains your knee issues, your ankle issues, like that just explains that you can't move your body correctly. And that's why you're in so much pain, is because you can't even just move efficiently and you're not using the right way to move it. That's why you pulled out your back tying your shoes, because you did it inefficiently.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then too, that brings us to a good point about when people think about strength training. They're like, one of the biggest things I hear when people are resistant to it is, oh, it's dangerous. Like I'm going to hurt myself. And it's like, no, you're going to prevent yourself from getting hurt. Like, as long as you're doing it correctly and, following a good program and things like that, using good form, like it's going to prevent injury. It's going to prevent pain. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There's there's very rarely, I could think about maybe like the 5 times I've ever gotten hurt doing weightlifting, and it's been a pulled muscle, nothing like terrible. I did a movement, I tried a new movement and it didn't work. I didn't like it. Sumo deadlifts are not my thing. I pull my glute every time. You just find, it's the worst pain. It's the worst back pain I've ever had in my life. I pulled a glute and it's the worst. So like people always think, and I've gotten the same thing, and I tell people, I'm like, no, you're more likely going to get hurt not strength training than if you do strength training. Absolutely. You're going to learn how to move more efficiently. You're going to just be able to move your body. Your muscles are going to be more efficient. You don't have to be that power lifter. You don't have to put 300 pounds on the bar to see results and to do that. That's what people think about. I think our minds automatically go to the most extreme situation. We think about the Arnold Schwarzeneggers and, the bodybuilders and the power lifters and, the people grunting at the gym, trying to lift the heaviest weight with the most terrible form. And we're like, oh, that's going to hurt us. And like, yeah, it would, but you're never going to do that. So don't worry.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people really underestimate too, like what counts as strength training, right?
Yeah.
It's what I think the majority of people that aren't familiar with it, when you mention strength training, their mind goes exactly to what you just described. Is that, people in the gyms like throwing 300 pounds on a bar and like making all this noise. And but, I mean, even a simple thing as doing a bodyweight squat, doing an elevated push-up, like these are all things that count as strength training and are beneficial to the vast majority of people, as opposed to, putting a big heavy barbell on your back.
Exactly. There are so many ways to strength training that I agree with you, that people don't think about, that you don't ever have to touch a barbell. You don't ever have to do that. If that, because to some people that's scary because they think that's going to get them hurt, which is it. Barbell is the most complicated exercise. And there are a lot of things that could go wrong with that if you don't have right form. It's not going to hurt you if you have the right form, obviously. So like, you don't have to touch that. Dumbbells are perfectly fine. Resistant bands, body weight exercises, even machines, cable machines, just regular machines. You don't have to go to that extreme level. You can take it to where you want it to go. People, again, think that you have to bring it to a certain level. It's like, no, just because you run doesn't mean you have to be a marathon runner. Same with weightlifting. You don't have to be a bodybuilder, powerlifter. You can just do it for your own enjoyment. Take it to the level you want and stay right there.
Yeah.
And coast for the rest of your life on that little bit.
And you'll be doing yourself a service there. Like something is better than nothing. You went from not doing any strength training to doing some body weight stuff. Like that's going to give you so much benefit.
Yeah.
I think it's really important. And my goal is always to like clear up, like it's not dangerous. You're not going to get like huge, that's another one. And it's just, it's the quality of life thing that is the most important, that I think people need to understand.
Yeah. That's my favorite like myth out there. I love talking to people who think they're going to get huge, because I like think back. I like thinking back when I was starting and like how I wanted to like build muscle and things like that, and how long it took me to build muscle and even like get to where I want to be.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, no, that takes years and years and years. You are so far off from that. Like you don't like people don't even think that like they don't even know how far away from that they are even are.
Yeah.
Like people work years and years and years to do that. And obviously there are some genetic freaks out there that will automatically just build up a lot of muscle just from, you know, lifting a few weights and, you know, that's them. But the majority of people are not going to do that. You're not going to instantly become, you know, the Hulk out there or, you know, whatever. So I think that's my like favorite myth out there to just like, no, that's just not going to happen. It just like makes me laugh because it's like, it's like, man, if you talk to somebody, I know people that work so hard to build muscle and I'm like, you want to talk to these people how hard and see how often they lift and how much they eat and they still can't build muscle.
Yeah, it's so difficult to get to that point. And the people that want to get there have to put in so much effort and so much time. And like you said, they have to adjust their nutrition. Like you have to be eating in a way that gets you there. You know, I told you I've been strength training since I was 15 and bench press has always been my worst lift. I mean, it's pathetic. It's pathetic. Like so pathetic that I'm like embarrassed to do it in the gym, right? And it's always been like this goal, like I want to be able to bench press 135. Like that's my goal, you know? And I just
nothing wrong with that.
I just recently got there. And I'm 30 now. It's taken me 15 years to get there. But I was eating in a way that allowed me to do it, training in a way that allowed me to do it. But it's really hard work. So to say that just because you start strength training, you're going to be like big and bulky and whatever. That's, no, you got to work to get. You have to like really. That has to be your focus in order to get there. So yeah.
Don't worry. My bench press is my worst lift as well. I'm a leg guy 100%. My upper body is definitely weaker than especially my chest and stuff. So don't feel embarrassed by that at all. Everything like that. Don't worry. I'm probably my than you are. So there. So I don't say what I did. But yeah, that brings me to like that next thing. Like, so if you could like one like of myth, like strength training, which one is like your biggest one that you would change? Like I know I find like a big bulky like that's my favorite one to like I would just go away. Which one would you say like is your like biggest like pet peeve like myth out?
Yeah, I was thinking about this as well. So I guess we kind of covered the dangerous one. We covered the bulky one. We kind of covered the one where it's not for old people as well. So the ones that I listed that are left are, you know, as it relates to weight loss. And I think that's the biggest one because in addition to strength training, you know, all of us talk a lot about weight loss. It's really important. Like a lot of people, they want to lose weight and this is their goal. And so I guess, the one I wish would go away would be that if you have a weight loss goal, you shouldn't strength train because it's gonna. And there's multiple reasons people believe that. You know, there's but you know, muscle weighs more than fat, so I'm actually not going to see the scale go down. And cardio burns more calories than strength training. And you know, all those things. It's just. I mean, it's not true. I mean, yes, cardio does burn more calories per session than maybe a strength training session. But again, we have already talked a lot about perspective, and you got to look at it from a bigger perspective. Like, yes, day to day, cardio is going to burn more calories, right, per session. But in the long run, what's going to make it easier for you to maintain your weight loss? You know. I did a post once about how your body adapts to cardio and how it adapts to strength training. And I think people don't realize, like with cardio, your body's really smart. Our human bodies are incredibly good at adapting. And so if you start doing like, I don't know, let's say like 30 minutes of cardio a day. That's your only exercise.
Yeah.
This is how you're going to lose weight, right?
Mm-hmm.
But your body becomes more effective at doing that 30 minutes of cardio. And over time, you're just going to burn less and less and less calories, right? Doing that same 30 minutes of cardio.
Yeah.
But with strength training, you know, we have this thing called progressive overload. And
Mm-hmm.
without increasing how much time you're investing,
Yeah.
you can continue getting the benefits of strength training, getting stronger.
Yeah.
Your body continuously adapting.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one of the biggest things people have to understand, is that using cardio just to burn a bunch of calories, it's very short-sighted, right?
Yeah.
Just the bigger picture of it is really important.
Yeah, I just made a whole podcast episode that dropped yesterday. And one of the things I was talking about, this principle of strength training, and progressive overload obviously was one of those. And I think that is a great way to think about it. Like, I like to think that I like how I'd like to describe it, and, kind of dumb it down for people not being so sciencey, is that your body is lazy.
Mm-hmm.
Your body is going to make it as efficient as possible. So it's going to adapt using whatever it can to make it work a little bit less each and every time. So if you continuously run, your body's going to notice that, and it's going to adapt to that. So it works a little bit less hard every time.
Mm-hmm.
So the same thing with strength training. Like, the only way to improve your cardio is you have to continuously increase the distance or increase the speed, which eventually, you eventually max out on that, because that's going to take more and more time, which exactly, you're right. With strength training, you just increase the reps, the sets, the weight that you're doing. And that's a same amount of time, but you're doing more work each and every round, each and every workout. So I think that is a great way, as well as like people forget, like you were saying, like you burn more calories during a cardio, but like if you think about it that way, okay, like you per session, but eventually the more muscle you build, you're going to be increasing the amount of calories you burn every day, just like living. So you want that muscle, because that's like, it's like investing. It's like you're putting money into that savings account, and you're making interest, and that muscle is that interest. You're going to be burning more calories. That's why it's so much easier. That's why you see a lot of these, like fitness professionals that do have a good amount of muscle, and it's so easily for them to maintain it because they have the muscle. They don't have to worry so much about the exact amount of calories they're having, because their calorie maintenance is so high already because of the muscle they have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can almost think about it like having muscle is kind of a buffer.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And like you said, it's a long-term investment, and that has a huge return on investment, right? Huge. Long-term, I mean, it's going to be so much easier to maintain that weight loss. And that's a big thing too, is like people get caught up in, okay, how am I going to lose all this weight? Yeah. But they don't think about, am I setting myself up to maintain it long-term? Yeah. Which is the most important part. Yeah. Like, who cares if you can get to your goal weight if you can't maintain it? Yeah, exactly.
That's what I just posted the other day, kind of like my progress from this year. And that was the whole point of the post, was that, like, I've done this before. I've, stressed about my diet, stressed about my workouts, worked out super hard, was super rigid with my diet. That didn't work. Those results just came back, twofold. And I was right back to where I was, in an even worse place than I was. And then it took me, maybe 16 months to get to where I was again. But over those 16 months, not one day did I stress about my food. Did I not want to stress about my workouts? I missed workouts. I missed days, ate pizza. I'm not stressed about it at all anymore, but I'm in the best shape of my life. Like that's what people need to realize, is that, like, it's not just today that you have to worry about. It's those tomorrow and the next day and the next day. How are you going to keep those results going on forward? And if you're stressing today about it, you're definitely going to be stressing about it for the next week, 2 weeks, 2 months. And obviously that's no way to live, especially, and for my mindset, I like to be happy. I don't want to be stressed. So like, for food and like workouts shouldn't be stressful. It should be fun. It should be enjoyable. That's what I feel like food and working out is. Like, I had so much fun in my workout today, working out with my friends. I had so much fun, eating dinner, and I love to cook. Why not enjoy every aspect of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that's a perspective thing as well. It's like this, it doesn't have to be punishment.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people are like view this, let's just take, for example, a weight loss journey. It's like they take it to the most like severe and like the biggest end of the spectrum, right? Like they feel, it's almost like they have to feel like they're suffering in order to reach their goal. But if we talk about what's the main thing that determines your success is consistency. And there is no way you're going to be consistent with something that sucks. Like I would not be consistent with anything if I couldn't like eat pizza, chocolate, like if I didn't enjoy working out and look at it from a perspective of I am like better. I'm making my body better. I'm making my life better. Like these things should add to your life, not take away from them. And there's no need for suffering and deprivation and all this sort of stuff. It's not necessary.
I love that. That's definitely like exactly how I like to preach it to my clients. It's like you're adding this in and it should be enjoyable. And if it sucks, like, obviously like sometimes you're going to need to do things that suck, but it shouldn't be 100% unenjoyable. Like if you don't enjoy lifting weights, that's okay. Find something that's going to help you strength train. Find a variation that you enjoy doing, find the exercise that you enjoy doing, and then go from there, add in some of the stuff you need from some of the things that you don't need, and then, it's all about balance there. There's always going to be aspects of everything that you don't like to do. There's always, no one likes to take out the trash, but you got to do it. You got to clean your house, you got to do these things that, make stink, but like you got to do it so you can do the things you do enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point, is that, yes, like these things should be enjoyable, but also like everything can't be enjoyable, like if you quit everything just because you didn't enjoy it, like what would you be doing right now?
I would have definitely quit my workout halfway through. I was like, this sucks. I don't want to do this anymore. But I didn't.
I wouldn't eat vegetables. Like you just do the things you have to do in order to get to where you want to be. So again, the perspective thing, think about this long term, look at it from a bigger perspective. Like right now you might not like what you're doing, and but it shouldn't be to the point where you like hate it and it's taking away from your life. So again, it's all about balance.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's such a big point. I've probably almost every guest I've had on here, or even in some of my podcasts, that's like always in the perspective of fitness, nutrition, and when the topic it always comes to, you got to have that vision and that perspective of enjoying it, and it's not suffering, it's not punishment, and you got to enjoy it. That's the goal of life. You got to enjoy it. It might suck for a little bit, but if you're not happy, what's the point of of this whole journey we're going on here? So
yeah, absolutely. So totally agree.
Yeah. So bringing it back to like strength training, everything, what advice would you give someone who, maybe has never done strength training before, but wants to get into? Where would you start someone? Where are clients? Like, what advice would you give them, at the beginning?
Yeah. So at the beginning, I think one of the most important things is to learn proper form. Well, of course, after getting over the fear that it's dangerous. So let's say somebody has already gotten over that. The most important thing is to learn proper form, because if you're not doing things with proper form, well, there's your risk for injury, right? And you're not, if you're not using proper form, you're not going to be getting the most benefit out of strength training. You're not going to be able to engage the appropriate muscle groups. And that's the second one. Learn what muscles should be working in the exercise you're performing. So those are always my top two. proper form and learn muscle engagement, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think that form follows you along so much. Like I've worked with clients who have strength trained before coming to me, and the biggest thing is, having to retrain because they've been doing something wrong for so long. Whether it be, leaning super forward on their toes for that squat, or, whatever, rounding their back on that deadlift. Like those are always things that are hard to overcome if you didn't do them at the beginning. If you kept doing it and kept progressing the weight and didn't form in the beginning, that is that's how you get hurt. That's when it becomes dangerous. When you start increasing your form is in the tank, like that's the easiest way to get hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So proper form and learn what muscles are supposed to be working. And then after that, it's more about like what kind of a training program you're following. I think it's super important. A lot of people are scared of doing the compound lifts, like squatting, deadlift variations, bench pressing, or even any chest pressing, rows, things like that. You have to prioritize those movements though, because that's where you're going to get the most benefit. That's what's going to help you in daily life. That's going to be responsible for the majority of your muscle gain. So yeah, prioritizing those compound movements and not just doing stuff for like problem areas. Like I get questions all the time, like on Instagram and stuff from women that are like, well, I just do lower body workouts, which is, that's fine, but you want to have a strong upper body as well. So don't just focus on those like, so-called problem areas, just don't do like only tricep stuff because you don't like that you have like some fat right here.
Exactly. Like there's more than one muscle group. Like there's more than one type of exercise. Just because you're doing, tricep extensions, there are other exercises like the bench press, close grip chest press that are going to be using those muscles. You want to do those compound movements because they help build that volume onto those other smaller muscle groups, and you're using heavier weights. I can chest press more than I can overhead tricep extension. So my triceps are going to get a little bit more activated when I can do, say like a 50-pound chest press. I can't do 50-pound overhead extension with one arm like that. I feel like my elbow would break on that point, but so like, and people, I agree with you. I see that all the time. It's women love that lower body, men love the upper body, and they avoid the opposite. And it's crazy. I'm like, why? I'm like, I love lower body. Like every day, I do push pull splits. So like, that's my favorite. So then you can lift leg, because then I can lift legs every day.
Yeah.
So like I can challenge that. And then you have to find that programming that works in that, like the stuff you need with the stuff that you like to do.
Exactly.
So I think doing that's why I like to push pull, because like if you hate lower body or upper body, it's like you're incorporating that every single day a little bit, because for that exact reason, I used to do like, your typical bodybuilding split, chest and back and, like all that. I skip days. I would skip shoulder days, like shoulder. I hate shoulders. Like I would skip shoulders all the time, and I would go weeks without doing it because of this. Like I knew when it was coming. It wasn't just sprinkled in there, throughout the workout.
Right. Yeah.
So you gotta find that program that like fits like everything that you need. What do you need? What do you like to do? And, sprinkle that in.
Yeah.
Top of that.
For sure. So that was the third one, prioritize compound movements. The fourth one is don't neglect strengthening the back of your body. So like following a balanced training program where you're balancing push and pull, and so don't just do a bunch of chest presses and not do any rows. Like that's setting you up for injury. So, so that was my next one. And these are getting into like the nitty gritty about program design that maybe beginners aren't interested in, but it's super important to like kind of set that precedent when you start. Just to set yourself up for success, be sure to avoid injury, things like that.
That was my that was like the first thing I covered for like my podcast on the basics of strength training, where like these are the 8 movements that should be involved with all your, programming, chest press, rows, overhead presses, lat pull downs, squat, deadlift, carry and plank.
Yeah.
Okay. You have these 8 movements, boom, pick 4, do 4 on one day, 4 on the other, sprinkle in whatever else you want to do on top of that, whether that be bicep curls, triceps, ab work, whatever extra, of one area. But as long as you have those movements, at least once a week, and then go from there. I always suggest, if you're going to do strength training as your only primary thing, 4 days a week is going to be, a good way to like help build up that volume. So yeah, like those, you always got to focus, like bring it always back home to those compound movements. If you don't have those compound movements and you're just doing bicep curls and tricep extensions and sit-ups, like, okay, that's great. But like, that's why your strength training isn't giving you the results you're looking for, because you're doing these small movements that are definitely, you're not burning any calories with those. And, you're still going to have a beer belly with, great arms. Great. That doesn't help, that's not going to help you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then also just like, using the principle of progressive overload. So I know a lot of people will be like, all right, I'm going to start strength training, but I'm never going to increase the weight I'm using. I'm not ever going to increase anything. And I'm like, well, then you're not going to get the results you want. Like you have to constantly push yourself to improve over time. You have to challenge yourself. You can't just go in there, do the same thing week after week and expect yourself to get the body you want or get stronger. So really understanding that is a vital piece of strength training.
Yeah, I think we see that all the time, is that people like, okay, I'm strength training, or even with cardio, they just stay, okay, this is what I'm going to need to do. And they just maintain. And they think, oh, if I keep this, then my results are going to go in the direction I want them to go. And it's like, well, they will for 3 weeks. And then you're just going to stay at the same thing, if not start going reverse back, because your body's going to get lazy and adapt. And I think that's where people come into, like, a lot of people don't track their workouts. Yeah. They have no idea, even how many times they're working out per week. They don't know what weights they used last time. Like we can't even remember what we had for dinner 2 nights ago. Like, how do you think you're going to remember your workout from last week or, last month or even yesterday?
Yep. Yeah.
So if you're not tracking that progress, that, just to like help like, okay, next time I need to increase my weight here because that was easy. That's how you keep building those results there. You got to track your progress. And I think it's crazy when people don't track their progress, even if you're trying to maintain, like, how do you not know like what you did last time to be like, oh, maybe I'm starting to decrease my weight. So like maybe something's going on here.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if I see somebody in the gym that's strength training and they're not like, they don't have a notebook and a pen, or they're not like logging stuff in their phone, I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm kind of OCD like that, but you're right. It's a huge part of it. You have to track your progress. Absolutely. That's huge. And that it hand in hand with progressive overload for sure.
Yeah. It's just, I feel like you're doing something, but like you have no direction, which is fine. Like sometimes you just don't have goals and you're just going here to maintain. But even when you're maintaining, like you should have that. So then at some point you're going to have a goal. At some point you're going to want to improve on something. And if you're not tracking, or you don't know what you did, for the last 3 months for a bench press, and you want to now increase your bench press a little bit, how do you know where you're starting? Like how were you benching 135 or were you benching 35? Like, how do you know what you won't, I don't remember. It's like, why aren't you tracking that? At least, help your future self know you want to challenge yourself a little bit there.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And I mean, it's the same thing as, weighing yourself every day. It's just collecting data and knowing where you are and being aware. And just the more information you have, it's always better. Um,
Just yourself kind of develop. If you have information, or even if you don't have a goal, just knowing that you can be like, okay, now this is what I've done for the last month. Now I do this. Oh, now I know. Great. Same reason people track their run or track their bicycle plan or whatever it may be their weight training. Yeah, where you left off, which is where some lose lose their on the treadmill. They don't track how far they've been going, what speeds they were at, or even like in group fitness classes. They don't know what weights they were using. They don't know like what they were doing last time. They just know that they've just been coming to class 3 times a week.
Right.
How do you know you're working any harder if you're not tracking anything? Or now everyone's got these watches on them and it's tracking their heart rate. Like how do you know like how do you know, like, are you looking at your heart rate? Have you noticed like where, if you are taking one, like a spin class, do you know like where your heart rate is? Like, is it going up? Are you working harder? Does it feel harder? And stuff like that. So I think like there's so many ways now to like track how you're doing that it's like at this point, it's so easy. Everyone has, this stupid thing attached to them all the time. Like you can write in your notes, what's your workout for today? What was you use and what was easy or what was hard, and simple that, next let's go up and you'll find it's more power that way. So
Yeah.
much.
No, absolutely, for sure. So yeah, track your progress. And then the next one I had was about program hopping. So don't. I think people get bored pretty easily, right? Like not such a long attention span, and they kind of feel like there was this whole thing about like muscle confusion that came up for a number of years, I think, and program hopping is also one of the best ways to not make progress. Like
100%.
you got to stick with something and track your progress. Use progressive overload. If you don't stick with something for at least 4 weeks, how do you expect your body to go through that adaptation process and become stronger and make progress? So I think it's very common for people to like do these like the Instagram swipe workouts, or like YouTube workouts. They're like, oh yeah, I'll just pick a random one and do it and call it strength training. But another vital component of strength training is sticking with the same program for at least 4 weeks. Otherwise, you're robbing your body of the opportunity to adapt.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's always somewhere where I fell into in the beginning was having to change. I felt like I needed to change that workout like every couple weeks, or even with my clients, change up the workouts to add variety to them. And it's like, no, you stick with it for 4 weeks. When you really think about it, if you're working out 3 to 4 times a week for 4 weeks, you're just doing that workout 4 times.
Yeah.
Like it's not that crazy. Most people have done a workout 4 times, the same workout. You're changing it up every day, and then next week you repeat the same thing, and you repeat the same thing for the next week and the next week, and then you can change it up, and there you go. If you think about it, you do that 12 months out of the year.
Yeah.
That's still a lot of workouts. That's a crazy amount of workouts.
Absolutely.
So, I can't do the math on my head, but that's like almost like what, 48 different workouts roughly.
Yeah.
50 different workouts, that's enough already. You don't need something crazy to change up your workout every single day. I think that's so mentally exhausting. I think like you've tried to do that. Like I couldn't even like think about changing my workout that much. Like that's just like I would never do it. I would never do it. I would do the same things anyway. Like because those would be the first things that come to mind. That's why if you sit down, create your workout for the month, and then that's where you can like put in that energy to be like, oh, let me add that variation, or let me, I did bent barbell. Let me try the dumbbell this time, or, try a different variation. So that's where you change it up every month,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, and that's the thing is like, people are like, well, I don't want to keep doing the same workouts because I get bored, but well, get your variety from, pushing yourself to, like, I get fired up when I'm like, I'm going to go for a PR today. Like, I'm going to pick up the heaviest weight I ever have, or I'm going to try this harder exercise variation, like that's where you get your variety from.
Exactly.
And I think something that a lot of people forget is that our bodies love routine. And if we don't give our bodies routine, then again, you're not going to make progress, right? And it just goes right back to that adaptation process. Our bodies require this repetitive stress in order to get better. But the other few I had were really about like not being afraid. Like, don't be afraid to build muscle. Don't be afraid to lift heavy. It's okay if the scale goes up a little bit. That's all right, and also don't be afraid to ask for help, I think is the biggest thing. I've had a lot of questions from people about like how to get over gym intimidation or, and it's like, first you have to understand that most people are too consumed and focused on their own workout to even pay attention to what anybody else is doing. But also like people, like, give people the benefit of the doubt. People are really nice. They'll help, they want to help. And there's always coaches around. There's always trainers around. Like, don't be afraid to ask for help. And also don't be afraid to hire a coach if you truly need it. At least to get yourself started.
I think that's the best place to start. I've had plenty of trainer friends when I was beginning that like really helped me, learn for myself, like what worked and what didn't work. And, you need, most people need that guidance at the beginning because there is so much information out there, especially now with social media, there's a lot of false information out there, a lot of people pushing things that, just aren't true. And there's plenty of, real truth out there, and it gets kind of, lost in the weeds. And there's, again, so many topics, like we can, like we've just gone through all this stuff. There's so much more that like we haven't even touched on, and we've been here for, about 45 minutes now. There's so much information out there. Like we both have degrees in exercise. Like there are 100 different things that can go into this, and it can get lost. So having that coach just like break it down for you and give you the information that you need in the chunks that you need it, and help you learn like what you need to know is like such a huge, if anything, I feel like you gain faster results that way, just because, you don't have that information overload. They can give it to you piece by piece, help you learn it in a way that's going to help you, go on to do it yourself. Because that's my goal with my clients. Like, I want them to do this and create their own program. Want to think about and create your own, that's fine. But I want you to at least know how you're doing the things you're doing and how they're get the results that you want. You don't know that emotions, and I like to know why I'm doing this. That's like the science guy in me. Like, why am I doing this?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I love that you said that. When I started in-person coaching, I always looked at it from the perspective of I don't want to keep a client forever. Like, unless they just really love like having a coach and having like their workouts made for them. But my goal is to teach you as much as you can so you can do all this by yourself. But definitely in the beginning, I think everybody, in order to set themselves up for success, you need the guidance. You can't, like I can't, I don't know, what's the first thing that's coming to mind? Taxes. Like, I'm not a professional at doing my taxes, so I'm going to ask for help. It's the same thing. It's like, ask for help, somebody that knows what they're doing, and learn as you're going through that process to eventually be able to do it by yourself if you want to.
Exactly. So awesome. Juhee, it was great talking with you today. Where can everybody find you? What's the best way to reach out to you, get your information and everything like that? I know people probably want to start seeing your social media and stuff. So where are you at?
So my website is all my stuff is Juhee Shah Fitness. So my website is juheeshahfitness.com. Instagram is Juhee Shah Fitness as well. On Facebook too. I got a Facebook business page, Juhee Shah Fitness. TikTok, that's been a fun one.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, you can find me pretty much anywhere. Juhee Shah Fitness is the business name.
I'll throw that in the show notes for anyone who wants to go give Juhee a follow. Her content is definitely fire. You should see some of it. It's great stuff. Definitely envy some of those videos and stuff that you do. They're really great. So awesome. It was great talking with you today. Hopefully you enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll talk to you soon. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for having me on. Loved it.
Yeah, man. You have a great day.
You as well. Bye.